All right, welcome everyone to our second information session for the BioAR trial program. We're happy to visit with you today regarding this program that we think is pretty exciting. We're going to run through some slides, introduce ourselves, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end of this process. But I will start by saying I'm Jeff Stinson. I direct Health Tech Arkansas. We're an organization that is really built around driving innovation for the 10 largest hospitals and health systems inside the state of Arkansas, which we do through accelerator programs like BioAR trial. And then we also do some internal innovation work with our hospitals here as well. And so we're going to start. I'm going to let some of my colleagues on the BioAR trial team introduce themselves. And then once we do that, we're going to run through these slides. And then we've got a couple of guest speakers, I guess, if you will, at the end of this from a couple of our program partners that we're really excited about bringing on because I think they're going to add tremendous value to the cohort companies within the BioAR trial program. So BioAR team, Stephanie, do you want to start? Introduce yourself.
Absolutely. I'm Stephanie Benton. I'm the clinical director at Health Tech Arkansas. Part of my role is leading the accelerator programs that we power at Health Tech Arkansas. In particular, my focus is primarily on BioAR trial right now, launching and executing that part, guiding the clinical engagement component, as well as facilitating and coordinating the communications.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. Jahan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jahan Ali, and I am at Symbiosis Capital. And by way of background, I've been in early stage biotech commercialization for the past 20 plus years. Joined Symbiosis about 6 months ago to really build up the ecosystem here in Arkansas. And we are very excited to be partnering on this program with Health Tech Arkansas.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I'm Nick Smith. I'm an associate on the team at Symbiosis, which is a Northwest Arkansas-based venture capital firm that's focused on investing in companies developing therapies for areas of unmet needs. So we're really excited to be launching this program with Health Tech Arkansas and bring some of these technologies here to the state.
Excellent. Thank you both. So obviously, Symbiosis has been a fantastic partner for us. It was actually their idea to launch this accelerator program. They had learned what we have done for the past 5 years with the HeartX accelerator program, which is more medtech device focused. And because of their interest in investing methodologies in the biotherapeutic space, they said, hey, let's try to do this in the biotherapeutics area. And we're really glad that they did. We think this is an outstanding opportunity for us to try to cultivate some of the life sciences activity in our state and hopefully help a good number of early stage companies along the way. So I'm going to run through some of these slides. So our program, obviously, we're an accelerator focused on increasing and expediting the enrollment of Arkansas patients in these emerging innovative medicines. That's the whole focus of what we're doing here. We think that bringing these advanced therapeutics into the state of Arkansas obviously helps our patients. It helps our provider organizations. And we also think, obviously, we can help some of the cohort companies through this process as well. It's funded through a collaboration between Symbiosis and Health Tech Arkansas that we had just mentioned to you. So what problem were we solving here? As virtually everyone who's been involved in clinical trials knows, there are some common challenges facing those trials. Slower patient enrollment, lack of diversity, the complex rules and regulations surrounding trials, and maintaining patient enrollment and retention throughout the trial. All of those are problems and challenges that we seek to address through this process. And we're going to kind of tell you how we plan to address some of these issues. So what we're offering, access to a large and diverse patient population. You can see the statistics there for the state of Arkansas. It is commonly known that states like ours are at a disadvantage from a health outcomes perspective. The upside to that is that from a clinical trials perspective, it sometimes makes it a very desirable place to host your trials because you get access to these kind of diseases. We have found this to be true in the HeartX program as well, where people tell us it's one thing to conduct clinical trials and pilot projects on the two coasts. But sometimes when you go into the heartland, this is sort of where this is where healthcare is administered, right? To really disadvantaged patient populations. And you have the ability to make a big difference here with access to those patients. We also offer dedicated clinical trial site personnel. We actually have a clinical trials manager that we have hired that we're super excited about. I'm going to introduce you to her in just a bit, but that is going to be a focused resource completely at your disposal to help you move through the trials here inside the state. And then obviously we've developed a robust network of our clinical trial sites. So we actually have 7 of those that are under contract with us in this program, and they are all very excited about the opportunity to evaluate companies that apply to our program, and they're looking forward to executing trials where they think assets can make a really big difference in improving their health outcomes. These are those sites. So you can see that they range from our academic medical center at UAMS, and specifically that entity that will be participating with us is the Winthrop Rockefeller Cancer Institute, which is undergoing NCI designation currently. We have Highlands Oncology, which is a private independent practice, very steeped in clinical trials. I think they have 120 clinical trials currently underway right now. Arkansas Children's Research Institute, Baptist Health, which is the largest health system inside the state of Arkansas. We have Arkansas Heart Hospital, privately owned. I think in terms of interventional procedures, it's the 3rd highest volume cardiac hospital in the U.S. CHA St. Vincent is part of the National Common Spirit chain. And then St. Bernard's up in the northeast quadrant is a very large health system. In fact, they, for the most part, dominate the northeast quadrant of the state of Arkansas, and have highly progressive providers and do quite a bit of clinical trial work themselves, and they're looking forward to working with us as well. So the companies we're syncing. So, you know, we think a sweet spot for us inside this program would be when we define early stage, we think about maybe a late preclinical company going into phase 1 trials within the next 12 months. However, we also think that we're open to phase 2 and phase 3 trials as well. The only caveat to that is whatever stage you are at, you need to be ready to go into your clinical trials within 12 months of coming into our program. Because if you're not prepared to do that, you should just wait until next year and apply to the program next year, because we want to, within any given 12-month period, we want to take 5 companies and advance them into clinical trials. You have secured funding to do the trial. That obviously is important to the health systems. If you're looking to do a phase 1 trial, you obviously are in that conducting currently those IND enabling studies and working in an area that includes cardiovascular or cardiometabolic diseases, immune disorders, and oncology. However, the caveat to that is if you have a therapeutic that you're developing in another clinical area, please speak to us, because we, across our 7 clinical trial sites, we do a lot of work in lots of different areas. So this is our timeline. Applications will remain open until January 15th, which is actually this weekend. So not very many days left in that. The good news, though, is that when you see the application link and you follow that link to apply to the program, it's a fairly straightforward application. It's not pages and pages you have to submit. I think there's probably 15 or 17 questions, something like that. It should take you probably about 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes to prepare your application and submit it to us. And so it's a pretty straightforward process. From there, from those applicant pools, we will choose 10 companies that will be interviewed by our clinical trial sites. 5 of those sites will get together. They will interview the 10 companies, and then they will choose 5 companies to get into the program each year. That happens on March 15th. And then we go about the work of facilitating those clinical trial sites, right? With an official program kickoff of April the 15th. So this is our BioAR trial team. 4 of us have introduced ourselves at the beginning of this call. So the one who's not on this call today is our newest team member, Priya Barghoti. And I will just tell you, I'm really, really excited about Priya. She has 16 years of in-depth clinical trials experience. And you can see some of the organizations with whom she has worked across the bottom there, but you can see that is both a sponsor, a CRO, and a site. So she has the full spectrum of clinical trials experience. She is fantastic. She's well regarded. She's super smart. The good thing for companies coming into this program is she will bring the knowledge of our 7 clinical trial sites to your organization, and she will be your champion. She's going to try to offload as much of your work as possible and facilitate your trial from beginning to end all the way through the process. So she is sort of a secret weapon for us that we bring to bear in this process. We're very, very excited to have her. So a couple of other companies that we have brought on recently that we want to introduce to you today. We've been thinking about what are the different ways that we can add value to 5 cohort companies who come through this program. And we are developing a pretty strong bench of program partners. And you're going to meet 2 of them today, but just know that there are discussions that are currently underway that we have a really fantastic opportunity to, I think, bring in 5, 6, 7, ultimately over time, who knows, but companies that really are prepared to bring outstanding value to our cohort companies with offerings that you can only get through the BioAR trial program. And that's really important. So the first one I'm going to introduce to you today is Brian Silverman. Brian is with us today. He is with Lena. And Brian, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, which will allow you to share your screen. And we are looking forward to hearing you tell us a little bit more about Lena and what you're going to do with our cohort companies today.
Certainly. Let me just share my screen here. Can you see my slide deck?
We can see that yes, now we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brian Silverman. I'm the CEO of Lena Enterprises. Lena affords clinical studies to operate over a technology that enable 100% decentralized or virtual or siteless clinical study design, as well as hybrid clinical study design, which entails a clinical study site with our decentralized platform. So once the subject leaves the clinical study site, normally the connection with them is lost until they come back per the protocol. With our hybrid design, once they leave the study site, the smartphone platform takes over and you're connected to the subject over their smartphone, basically 24/7. The data lakes become exponential in nature, and essentially the system enables speed. We also can operate within fully site-based clinical study operations as well. Lena's platform is an end-to-end solution. It enables digital recruitment and a new capability that's especially relevant with our partnership with Walmart called Recruitment as a Service. We enable digital consent and digital signature, various randomization and trial supply management systems running in the background that enable any type of randomization, stratification, and blinding requirement. The system also connects directly with the labs that are involved. This is a direct data capture feature. Data flows right from the lab into our EDC. We have our own EDC and is made available immediately as live data. Any shipping that's involved, Lena connects with the vendors for shipping. We track receipt of IP as well as return of all unused IP. The system enables all ECO or ePro and ECRF capabilities. from clinically validated questionnaires to ad hoc questionnaires. Of course, the system through our EDC enables the capture of real-world data, which affords real-world evidence. But there's a new type of data that is afforded that would never exist outside of these solutions. And we call that real-world performance data. Because you're connected with the subject over their smartphone, which they take everywhere with them, you're able to collect data through the subject's home and work environments, something you cannot do in a clinical study setting. It costs a little more to build this way and takes a little longer, but our platform is device and application agnostic. This again is a direct data capture feature. Data flows right from the device directly into our EDC and is made available immediately for live viewing. A new capability that we haven't discussed with Jeff or Stephanie or Jahan is a research management hub. This is specially designed for organizations we're working with that have multi-site elements. For example, Walmart will be offering 4,000 store locations as clinical study sites, or it could be a hospital system dialogue, one of which currently has a little over 50 hospital system campuses and a little over 100 satellite sites. The Research Management Hub enables a centralization of all of the studies. So you're seeing everything that's going on with every study that you might have running through this one Research Management Hub. Of course, this is not applicable for the stage we're talking about here with these companies, startups, but down the road, it may be. And then depending if subjects are being compensated, our system handles that from start to finish. Jeff, I'll handle over back to you.
Great. This is fantastic, Brian. Thanks for outlining that. We really very much appreciated that. You know, we think about the 5 cohort companies who will come through our program and their ability to access the Lena platform for free for a single trial. That's a huge, the market value of that is significant. I think that should be underscored. And I think it's fantastic that Lena, as you know, as an entrepreneurial driven company yourself, that you can still identify and think about those early stage biotherapeutics company. And this is a way to help pay that forward in a way to help some of these companies. So we very much appreciated that. Does anybody on the BioAR trial team have any questions for Brian before we move on to the next presentation? Oh, all right, excellent. Thank you, Brian. So we will pop back and we will share screen again. And now we have Chris Waybell, and I think your partner Sean is with you as well. So KX Advisors has joined us as our most recent program partner, and really excited about what they have to offer our companies. So Chris, I'm going to again let you share your screen, introduce yourselves, and then take it from there.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jeff. Can you all see the slides here?
Yes.
All right. I'll turn it over to Sean. He'll do a quick intro on the firm, and then we'll get a little bit into our partnership with BioAR as well.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, and thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Vanderland. I am a partner at KX Advisors, and we are a global life sciences strategy consulting firm. I'm based out of Washington, D.C., and Chris is based out of our Boston office. A little bit about KX. We have a history going back to the early 80s under another firm, Kaiser Associates, that we spun off from about 3 years ago when we formed KX as a dedicated healthcare strategy consulting offering. And we specialize in what we call fact-based and analytically driven growth strategy and performance improvement projects. We work across a number of different subsectors within healthcare, and one of our biggest areas and biggest areas of focus is pharma and biotech, as well as med tech, digital health, and diagnostics. And we're very proud that we're one of the, despite being a boutique firm, we're consistently recognized as kind of one of the top consulting firms in the space, both from a boutique standpoint and among top 50 consulting firms globally. We work with companies across, all stages in terms of size and development. And so we work with a number of larger, big pharma companies, as well as early stage companies like those that will be a part of the cohort that are pre-revenue in clinical development. And we focus heavily on, thinking about commercial growth strategy and how to successfully develop new products. Our team is about 50 folks total across 3 offices, and we have dedicated experts that have hybrid business and some scientific backgrounds, often hiring PhDs that would work on our projects, and supports research globally across the 3 offices that you see here on the right, with our main office being in DC, having an office in Boston, and then we do a lot of research in Europe out of our London office.
Hey, hi, everybody. I'm Chris Wabel. I'm a vice president at KX. Really excited to be here and be partnering with BioAR. And just wanted to give a quick overview of first kind of our typical projects and range of services that we provide to our clients. And then we'll dive into how we're specifically partnering with cohort companies. So on this slide, you can kind of see the full range of what we offer to our clients in pharma, medtech, et cetera. Really starting from upstream portfolio planning, product development, moving all the way down to launch planning, commercialization, and lifecycle management on the downstream side of things. We know a lot of the cohort companies might be, coming into those milestone, stages of their clinical trials and clinical studies where they should start considering some of these upstream components, such as market opportunity assessments, indication prioritization, as well as revenue forecasting and really honing in on a target product profile that is going to fit the needs of the providers and patients in your designated therapeutic areas. This then dovetails into a lot of downstream work that we do for our clients as well. As Sean mentioned, most of our work is repeat work, so we really like to build strong relationships from the beginning and hold on to them as our companies and clients progress from phase 1 to phase 2, phase 3, and ultimately to commercialization. And we will be supporting BioAR companies in a couple of different ways. The first is we're going to be facilitating a growth strategy seminar, which will be a virtual workshop with all of the biotech companies selected for the accelerator. And a lot of the frameworks that we're going to be bringing to this are based on those that we've developed internally and customized at KX that have been kind of battle tested with some of the leading pharmaceutical companies and medical device clients that we have. Both those that are, some of the Fortune 500 companies you might have heard of, as well as other pre-revenue companies that are earlier stage and very similar to those that will be applying to BioAR. Some of the session topics we'd cover in this would be, strategic priorities for early stage biotechs, how to sequence specific growth strategies, initiatives, and work streams, key questions to be answering, considering, and developing through each stage of development, and then finally a collaborative discussion and Q&A. And then in addition to that, afterwards, we'd also, we'll be facilitating one-on-one virtual discussions with each company individually and several stakeholders of each company, if that's preferred. This will really be customized to kind of the near-term priorities and the needs of your company specifically. So that could be covering something from how should I be thinking about a target product profile, or how should I be thinking about market sizing in a couple different ways? What do the referral trees and maps look like? What are the unmet needs and pain points of my patients, payers in this space, as well as providers, and on and on. We're really excited to be offering a two-pronged approach here to really support these companies in the BioAR Accelerator. Pass it back to you, Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris and Sean, very much. I think this slide is a good, I was going to say it would be a good place to leave it up. If any of our BioAR, if that's easy enough to do, I think that's a helpful slide to keep as a placeholder there. For the BioAR team, does anybody have questions for Sean and Chris about what they just presented?
I do, and this is more from a case study perspective for, a company entering phase 1, but, that one-on-one support discussion, I see you've got several things there. Would all of these sample topics apply to those companies, or can you elaborate more on what kind of one-on-one advice they could be getting, at the various stages of their development?
Yeah, certainly. I think, each company is going to have a unique set of needs. We engage with companies that have, there's a long laundry list of strategic considerations at every stage of clinical trials. Some of those are checked off earlier on in the process, some of them are later. And so what we find is the gaps are typically unique for each company. So what we'd love to do is kind of home in on one area. With regards to the advice that we'd be providing, I think it'd be a lot of advice around kind of key questions and best practices to consider associated with each of these topics, as well as some lessons learned from successful clients that have made it through each of these stages of clinical trials. And then finally, potentially some templates and tools that could be used moving forward, not only in phase 1 or phase 2, but beyond, that could really have some longevity for these companies. Sean, anything to add there?
No, I think you covered it.
Chris, I have a question. So would KX also be able to help the companies determine what is the best therapeutic area or disease where there's a white space that they should be pursuing? I mean, I'm sure all the companies will have an idea. They want to do a clinical trial, in X condition, or if we think about in oncology, a particular type of cancer. But could you say, oh, this is a better indication, etc.?
Yeah, I can take that first stab at that one. I think the short answer is we're always happy to help support that, and that is an area that we have done a lot of work historically on with early stage companies. Thinking about one of the types of projects that we're often doing is kind of market landscape assessment, understanding what the opportunity looks like and being able to help develop a business case for a given indication or looking at a therapeutic area more broadly. We've also helped early stage companies with indication prioritization assessments, trying to figure out what should be, what's most attractive from a commercial standpoint, as well as from a clinical development standpoint, and how they should think about kind of trade-offs and risks associated with that. I think it depends for each cohort company, kind of how much, what stage they're at and making that determination. And we're always happy to kind of share and scope out what those assessments typically look like for early stage companies in a targeted way.
Excellent.
Sorry, Jeff. I actually have another question, and I'm going to kind of go back to Brian for just a second, because I thought about this after the fact when we started asking KX questions too. But, can you tell me more about just how your partnership would work for earlier stage companies entering that phase 1, because you have a really wide service range that you can adjust to whatever that trial is. So I'm just curious if that might be helpful to some of our companies that are doing those phase 1s, rather it be in oncology, which are highly complex trials, difficult to recruit for, versus cardiometabolic trials that are a little easier to attain and recruit for, but still difficult as they are the first trial that they've ever executed on?
Well, it's a big question. We're therapeutic area agnostic and we're phase agnostic. When we meet with a particular sponsor, we are highly collaborative in the engagement from start to finish. We're not providing the type of services as KX, but again, we can give people insights into, to your point, reach the populations, what it can cost, so they can plan better in terms of funding, which is going to impact everything, of course. Yeah. So globally, we have partners in tandem with Walmart. It gives us in the US actually access to a little over 300 million potential subjects, which covers quite a bit. Walmart's focus is on health equity. So we can enable that through our partners to facilitate democratization of clinical trials. You can have a healthy balance between all different sectors and different populations, especially the hard to reach rural populations. So we do, again, in collaboration, help with design of the protocol. We can point out areas where there might be holes, how to overcome pitfalls in getting approval by IRBs. All of those different elements are critical. All of it is about data, and that's really what our solution provides, is data. So depending on the different business owner within that organization that we're speaking with, we can give them advice in terms of what we've experienced on our end, performing a little over 150 studies within these platforms, which is pretty much comparable to a much more heavily funded company such as Medable, if I throw out a name there. This is a very early stage venue for decentralized and hybrid studies, and we were one of the first to build that. We do operate on a global scale, so if the company is thinking global, we can again facilitate that as well. And if you're looking for niche areas, that's actually a lower hanging fruit. Sometimes it's easier to go outside of the US to run a study, especially if you're looking to get early data of substantive importance. Again, bringing it back to funding to help facilitate that. Does that help answer?
Yes, that is fantastic, Brian. Thank you for that context. And Chris and Sean, thank you for presenting KX Advisors as well. And so what I would say for both of these companies, you know, not only are we really enthusiastic about their ability to move the needle for our 5 cohort companies, but particularly through these upfront engagements that they're offering complimentary as part of the program. Obviously, there's a very good chance that as a cohort company in the BioAR trial program, you'll see significant value from your work with these organizations. And there is a very good chance that you may want to transition that into some sort of commercial contract with these organizations. And that is perfectly fine. That is obviously outside the scope of BioAR trial and our team, whatever that commercial contract that you choose to pursue with these companies, that's up to you and would be negotiated separately with them. But it is definitely something that we would encourage. And you know, we choose our program partners because these are the type of the organizations that we think can make a big difference for companies that are in clinical trials right now. So thanks to you both for that. I think I had just one final slide, which is next steps, right? So here's how to apply to our program. There's the link. You can actually find it on the BioAR trial website. It's pretty prominent. It says apply now. And then obviously our clinical director, Dr. Stephanie Benton, you should feel free to reach out to her at any time with any questions. So at this point, I think what we're going to do is if anybody on the webinar has questions for us, you can drop them into the chat function. You can also verbalize them if that is easier for you. I'm going to start because I had a couple of questions that were sent to me through a private message. So I'm going to start with those. But if you have any, if you're on the call and you have questions, feel free to drop those into the chat function. Or like I said, just unmute yourself and talk. Actually, Emily, they may not be able to do that. They may not be able to talk. So
they cannot.
All right, gotcha. So they have to come through the chat function. So so a couple of the questions that were sent to me, we'll start with those. We are currently conducting IND enabling studies right now, which may take 6 to 9 months to complete. What's the best way of knowing when to apply? And that's a very common question that we do get. Again, we mentioned that we would like for your clinical trials to commence inside the state of Arkansas within 12 months. If you think about that timeline of 5 cohort companies chosen on March 15th, and then we actually launched the program April 15th, that means for that 12-month period from April 15th, 2023 to April 15th, 2024, that's when we would like your trials to start. So to the degree that you're in IND enabling studies right now, that if you really do think that it'll take 6 to 9 months to complete them and you'll be ready soon after that to enter trials, I think that's perfectly fine. I think what our hospitals would probably take into account, as well as Symbiosis and Health Tech Arkansas, is, you know, what's the risk around that? What is the risk that your IND study, it takes longer and that you have more work to do, and in fact, you won't be able to sometime between April 2023 and April 2024 have been able to launch your trials here. But if you think you can, then we would encourage you to apply, because we think that's a potentially a very good fit. Also, too, I will say that while you're in the middle of your IND enabling studies, there's a lot of work we can do with you to help you prepare in parallel, right? So we can be working with you on connecting you with your site here inside the state of Arkansas, getting PIs up to speed, getting all the documentation done that we can, so that when you are prepared to launch your trial and start enrolling patients, we've done as much work as we can with you up front. The other question that I had sent to us is, we've indicated on the website that the program is not providing any investment funding up front, but will the program help the cohort with investor introductions? And that one is an enthusiastic yes. It, of course, starts with the investor we know the best, which is Symbiosis. So they're a very active investment firm in this space, a very large fund. And so they invest exclusively in biotherapeutics. So that's that is obviously the first introduction that is made, but through both the Health Tech Arkansas network and with the Symbiosis network that is even larger, with all the companies with all the firms with whom they co-invest into early stage biotherapeutic companies. It's a pretty impressive network, and that is something that we will be very assertive on, is helping companies with investor introductions and helping you to move into your next capital round. All right, so Jahan, you have asked another question here, question from a company. We're fundraising right now and think our answer to question 10 will change. Can we update this information at a later date? I think the answer to that is yes, but Emily, I'm going to defer to you in terms of the AwardForce capability, which AwardForce is the third-party platform that manages our applications, whether applicants can come back and edit their application after it's submitted.
Yes, they can.
Excellent. Very good.
But can I just, on top of that, ask Emily, can they edit the information after the applications are officially closed?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that one point.
That is a good point. So after you have submitted and after our applications close, if you want to change your question, just reach out to us and we will help you to do that, because we do want the selection committee and the sites to consider the latest information that we have for a given company. So it doesn't make sense for us to block you from adding relevant information to your application. Excellent. All right, so are there any other questions that people would like to drop into the chat function now? Would you consider extending the deadline? We have started the application, but we're at JP Morgan. It seems like most of our world is at JP Morgan this week, and that is a very good question. And so that is just something that we will talk about as a team on the BioAR trial team. I will say this is not the first time we have heard this question. We've had a number of people who have said, we really need more time to get this in. So we will definitely consider that, and we will post a notification about that, probably send email updates to to our database, companies that we think are probably interested in this program, et cetera. So that is definitely something we will consider right now. And let's see, another one has come through private message, having funding for the trial. Yes, we do think it is important for companies to have funding for their trials. So if that is an open question mark for you on your application and you have some concerns or questions around whether you may have funding secured, then I would just say that on the application and let us talk to you about that and help you try to assess that. So Emily has dropped one in from Cortland ML. As FDA changes regulations in September, how are y'all going to prepare? That is a good question and perhaps outside my scope of expertise.
Yeah, I don't mind answering that. We have that on our radar. We do anticipate those changes are going to come down. You always have to flex and pivot and be prepared for regulatory changes, whatever the environment is, regardless if it's therapeutics or med tech, and just having those protocols updated as it's needed. So we have it on our radar. We're ready and prepared to flex if we need to flex on that. We also know that we'll need regulatory involvement, and understanding where our companies are on that is going to be really important. So really our key thing there is going to be communication and just knowing when we need to change that when it's appropriate. FDA never moves as fast as our companies want to move, nor does it move as fast as we want to move. So while our goal is to be as efficient and effective as possible, sometimes the FDA can throw a wrench in that. But again, communication, having it on our radar and being prepared to pivot and move when that time comes is going to be critical. And we have it on our radar.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephanie. All right. Any other questions before we depart? So thanks everyone for this. I think this hopefully was very helpful for companies who are considering applying. Again, reach out to us with any questions. We look forward to seeing your applications. We've already received some really outstanding applications to date, and so we're excited about this process, and we look forward to getting to work with you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
So,